Hello everyone. This is the 9th part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 65, Improvement. At this point, the most important thing to Bruce was to improve his own strength, everything else had nothing to do with him. Especially because if everything went as it should, Hawkeye would soon attack the helicarrier and Banner would transform into his Hulk persona and go out of control. At that time, everything would be in total chaos, and Bruce had to take part in it himself. So naturally, before that happened, Bruce had to become stronger, and the fastest way of doing that was to upgrade his most recently acquired Mark armor. After arriving at that conclusion, Bruce laid on his bed and closed his eyes. He opened the system panel and checked his personal information. Name, Bruce Lite. Identity, Level 6 Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ability, Marksman, Anti-Aging Gene, Spider Telepathy, Super Serum Gene, Super Endurance, Body and Shield as 1, Acer's Longevity Gene, Regeneration Ability, Virus and Disease Immunity, Adsorbent Ability, Super Speed, Super Strength, Mind Control Immunity, Self-Healing, Strengthened Hands, Super Vision, Pig Iron Body, Superb Level Fighting Technique, Saber Proficiency, Firearms Proficiency, Covert Tracking. Warehouse, Vibranium Shield, Mark 7 Armor. Balance, $2 million. Energy value, 90 points, can be used for one-click download and one-click upgrade. His abilities had gotten more and more numerous, however there were quite a few of them that had not adapted to his present strength. These types of abilities needed the ability fusion function to make them relevant once again. After checking his system panel, Bruce took a look at the Mark 7 armor that he had just obtained. The most important point of the Mark armor wasn't the armor itself, but the technology that made it. Otherwise, with so many superheroes around, it would be impossible for Iron Man to be the sole possessor. Besides that, Bruce also didn't have to worry about the armor getting damaged or the energy shortage of the armor after a battle, as the system warehouse would take care of that. All he needed to worry about was using it effectively, and to that point he started to familiarize himself with every function the Mark armor had to offer. Another important thing to note was that the Mark armor that Bruce had was not in Iron Man's control. Even the AI for it had been changed by the system, so that Bruce had total control. As long as he put it on his body, the armor would seemingly integrate with him, he wasn't required to do any other action. 1 hour later, and Bruce had become familiar with the armor and its capabilities. In the system warehouse, the Mark 7 armor had also changed its exterior completely, the whole armor had turned black, much to Bruce's liking as it fit his aesthetic taste. His own Mark 7 armor had become unrecognizable and perhaps only Iron Man could notice that it was his armor. After that, Bruce upgraded his armor without further delay. Beep, upgrading the Mark 7 armor requires 50 points of energy value, would you like to proceed? As Bruce pressed the button to upgrade it using energy value, the system's voice said the following sentence. And sure enough, he had been right, the energy value required for the first upgrade was not too significant. Of course, that was only for the first. He was sure that the required energy value for the following upgrades would sharply increase. Nonetheless, the current 50 points of energy value were points well spent. Beep, congratulations, your upgrade has succeeded, you have obtained the Mark 8 armor. Bruce heard the system's voice come through instantly and was overjoyed. Even if Iron Man himself wanted to upgrade the suits, he would require a lot of time to do calculations and various other things. But because Bruce owned the system, he could completely neglect that aspect. He just needed to click a button, and the Mark armor would upgrade itself in a moment. It was that simple. Compared with the Mark 7, the Mark 8 had two advantages, offense and defense. The bigger difference was in the defense, as it was a lot more resistant than the previous version, and was the main priority of the upgrade. This model of the Mark armor had yet to be designed by Iron Man, and yet Bruce owned it. It was really interesting to think about. After Bruce was finished, his eyes glanced towards the vibranium shield he had downloaded from Captain America. As its name suggested, it was made with vibranium, which possessed great strength, and so far nothing had been able to destroy it. Bruce didn't think that it was undestroyable. The universe was so big, and although the shield possessed great strength, it was possible that it couldn't resist an attack when he had to deal with impossibly powerful foes. With that in mind, he chose to upgrade the vibranium shield. Beep, upgrading the vibranium shield requires 30 points of energy value. Would you like to proceed? Yes. Although energy value was very precious to him at this point in time, when it came to improving his strength, it was worth it. After all, as long as he continued getting into fights, he would replenish that amount in no time. Beep, congratulations, your upgrade has succeeded, you have obtained the Super Vibranium Shield. The upgrade this time was in the shield's offensive and defensive properties, and the improvement was significant. The most important aspect, however, was that it could now return into Bruce's hands on its own, just like Thor's hammer. The only limit to this was if the shield was out of a certain range. But regardless, Bruce was not only satisfied with this, he even wanted to continue upgrading it to the point that it would really be indestructible. It was also worth mentioning that since the shield could be upgraded, it proved Bruce's theory of it not being indestructible, which was a good thing for Bruce to know, as he wouldn't get complacent. By relying on the upgrades this time around, Bruce's strength had once again improved. With his newly obtained and upgraded Mark armor and vibranium shield, Bruce would have an easier time if he were to deal with Thor now. He was really quite satisfied with how much he improved this time around. Bang! Just as he was thinking of that, the sound of an explosion was heard. Following which the whole helicarrier started shaking, making Bruce instantly open his eyes. It seemed that Hawkeye had taken action, which meant that the Hulk would soon undergo his transformation. Bruce couldn't wait to get the fight with Hulk started, as he would obtain a huge amount of energy value. Beep, beep, beep. At this moment, all the alarms went off. Bruce instantly opened the door and made his way towards Hulk's position. Luckily, because the meeting had ended not too long ago, the Hulk could not have gone far, and Bruce had already set his sights on Hulk's possible locations. Roar! As he was trying to determine where to go, a roar came, making several agents freeze in place. A light flashed in Bruce's eyes as he instantly ran towards the direction the roar came from. Roar! As he got closer and closer, he heard the roar get louder and louder, and seconds afterwards he saw the Black Widow running towards him with a pale face. Bruce, run! Leave here, Banner is out of control. She looked very anxious and wanted Bruce to leave as soon as he could. When the Hulk went out of control with rage, his destructive power was unmatched. But Bruce didn't even flinch, only his shadow was left behind as he rushed past the Black Widow. Soon afterwards, a green humanoid monster appeared in front of him and instantly punched towards his face. Chapter 66, Tough Battle. Bang! The strength of that fist was too strong, almost no one could guard against it. Even Bruce himself, after becoming stronger, felt that he was helpless to deal with that power with just his own. Bruce! The Black Widow loudly exclaimed, her face becoming very pale. After all, Bruce was quite strong in her opinion, but she didn't think that there was any way he would be able to deal with the Hulk. Especially in the state the Hulk was in now, he was akin to invincible. However, just as the Hulk's fist neared his body, Bruce took out his super vibranium shield and used it to block. Bang! Even with the shield in front of him, Bruce could still feel the terror of that fist. He became akin to a kite with a broken string, flying dozens of meters away before finally smashing into a wall. The Black Widow froze, as such a blow should take Bruce out instantly. In fact, she wouldn't be surprised if Bruce got killed by that blow, as it was that terrifying. Apparently the Hulk was also of the same opinion, as his eyes moved away from Bruce and onto Black Widow's body, which made her heart almost explode in fear. Her physical condition wasn't anywhere near strong enough to be able to withstand Hulk's attack. Clunk! But in the next moment, Bruce pushed away the residue on top of him and stood up relatively easily in front of the shocked gazes of the Hulk and Black Widow. Barton might bring trouble elsewhere, you should leave here first, Bruce said, and looked quite calm while doing it, keeping his thoughts to himself and strengthening his grip on the shield in his hand. It was only now that the Black Widow realized that Bruce had wanted to deal with the Hulk alone all along, which prompted her so say, but in the state Banner is in, he will kill you. She was very worried, as the only one in the helicarrier in her opinion that could put up a fight against the Hulk was Thor. But regardless of her thoughts and worries, Bruce had his own plans and wasn't doing this because of pride or ego. "I said leave," Bruce said once again, his eyes flashing a bit of light. In the next moment, black metal parts began covering Bruce's body one by one in an instant, making him look like a copy of Iron Man. The process took no more than a second before Bruce was ready once again. With the black armor on, he looked like a death god all dressed in black, as the whole armor was glowing and releasing a cold black light. The Black Widow froze in place, speechless before the Bruce that had undergone his transformation. She had never seen Bruce in that armor, he was like a war machine. "Okay." Upon seeing that Bruce had transformed completely, she nodded right away. Perhaps now that Bruce was in his peak form, he could really deal with the big green monster. After deciding that, she instantly left the place without hesitation. Roar! After releasing a roar, the Hulk stepped forward, making the cement floor crumble instantly. Wham! At the next moment, he appeared in front of Bruce and punched out once again. Whoosh! Almost as if having predicted that, Bruce's hands instantly shot out innumerable spiderwebs, wrapping Hulk up in a very short amount of time. This time around, the amount of spiderwebs Bruce had shot out was several times more than he did in his fight with Thor. Roar! The Hulk roared angrily this time, as his strength was indeed ridiculous, but even he couldn't break out of the web that covered him for the time being. Upon seeing that the Hulk was incapacitated, Bruce made his move, attacking the Hulk from all directions using the Mark Armor's ray weapons among other things. Bang, bang, bang! The huge explosions brought about as a consequence of the Hulk and Bruce's fight destroyed a lot of the equipment on the helicarrier. But fortunately enough, Bruce had been very careful so far, as otherwise, the whole carrier would go down in a huge series of explosions. Roar! After being bombarded by Bruce's attacks for 2 very long minutes, the Hulk finally managed to break himself out of that web. However, even after Bruce had attacked him for 2 minutes without resistance, he could still not break through the Hulk's defense. Bang! However, still not discouraged, Bruce made his move once again, this time making all of his armor pieces combine on his left hand, making it a huge fist. Crack! Nonetheless, the storm of energy brought about by the Hulk's attack made all those armor pieces crack one by one. Even if it was the notorious Mark armor, before the Hulk's strength, it was sturdy enough. Bruce continuously stepped back, constantly shooting out spiderwebs as he flew backwards with the help of the inertia. Facing such a brute of an opponent, the only way to beat him was by using soft methods that won out against his hard ones. The Hulk was very powerful indeed, but facing the constant barrage of spiderwebs, no matter how powerful his strength was, he could still not directly smash through them, as he could only let them wrap him up once again. "Bruce, good work," Thor said as he made his appearance and instantly made his move on the Hulk. Thor was an Aesir, which was a race completely different from the human race of Earth. Against his strength, even the Hulk needed to be careful. Although the Hulk was smashed to the ground, all that did was make him angrier. And the angrier he got, the more powerful he became. Roar! Instantly after that roar, Hulk broke out of the web and attacked Thor, who was closest to him. While the Hulk had to be wary of Thor's strength, the same could be said for Thor, as the green monster had truly terrifying strength. Whoosh! Thor grabbed his hammer that appeared out of nowhere, and swung it towards the Hulk. Bruce also made his move at that moment, as his hands released powerful destructive energy that hit the Hulk's body. But as the Hulk's skin was too hard, the destructive energy was only able to push him, and was incapable of breaking through his skin. "Push him out of the carrier," Bruce said. Seeing the big hole on the wall, Thor, who had been ready to attack once again, understood Bruce's intentions immediately. If they continued to fight in this manner, the helicarrier would ultimately fall down at some point, sooner or later. The best method of dealing with the situation was to push the Hulk out of the helicarrier. Moreover, with the Hulk's strong body, he would be completely uninjured, so there were no worries on that part. Bang! After understanding Bruce's intentions, Thor moved together with Bruce. Their goal was not to beat the Hulk, but to force him back again and again until he was out. Under their attacks, the Hulk could no longer offer much resistance and directly flew out of the carrier. In order to totally prevent the Hulk from getting back somehow, Bruce shot out a cannonball that hit him in order to speed up his descent. My impression of you has changed, you are really smart. Where did you get this suit of armor from? Thor said as he began to admire Bruce. The armor on Bruce's body made him think about Iron Man. But although the two were in fact the same, how could Thor know that? Your cute brother is also here, don't you plan on seeing him? Bruce said after taking his helmet off, not bothering to explain himself. That apparently prompted Thor to remember something, as he immediately turned back and left. The battle with Hawkeye on the other side of the carrier should not have ended so soon, I need to hurry up. Although the fight against Hawkeye would not net him too much energy value, regardless of how small the amount was, it was still something. However, just at that moment, the system's voice sounded out in Bruce's mind again. Beep, the battle has ended, you have obtained 200 points of energy value. Sure enough, his fight with the Hulk was on another level, and as such, he got rewarded double the amount he had been previously. Bruce smiled, immediately removing his armor and making his way towards Hawkeye. At this moment, Hawkeye should already be fighting against the Black Widow, and the two of them could be said to be evenly matched. But Hawkeye was good at ranged attacks whereas the Black Widow was better at close combat instead, giving him an edge in their fight. Their battle would definitely be close, and it would soon be decided which of those two would win. Chapter 67, Fight. However, Hawkeye wasn't easy to deal with. After all, the two of them were equal in combat strength, making the fight prolong for quite a while. The battle between the two was quite fierce, even more so because their physical condition was very good, making the battle quite hard to judge in a short period of time. Barton, wake up. The close combat fighting ability of the Black Widow was very strong, but her opponent was Barton and it was difficult for her to quickly subdue him because she didn't want to really hurt him. At this time, Hawkeye's eyes revealed a strange blue light, which looked extremely out of place on him. This blue light was naturally the blue light that represented someone being controlled, so while Hawkeye was treating her as an enemy, she could only try her best not to hurt him. Bang! Hawkeye hit downwards with his fist, and as the Black Widow didn't resist it in time, she was smashed into the wall. The great power of that fist was not something the Black Widow could bear. She only felt that her body turned inside out and almost vomited out blood. After that, Hawkeye directly took out his gun and shot towards her. Clang! But before he could pull the trigger, a flying knife suddenly came following a sonic boom, and as fast as a lightning bolt, it instantly hit Barton's gun. The Black Widow turned back, and saw Bruce standing there wearing a black suit. How is he? Black Widow asked, feeling relieved as well as worried at the same time. Since Bruce had appeared here unharmed, it was only natural that the Hulk was no longer a threat to them right now. Bruce did not answer her but moved forward instead, throwing out dozens of flying knives toward Hawkeye. Every single flying knife had great power, further strengthened by the momentum of its speed that was as fast as a bullet. Clang, clang, clang. Hawkeye was worthy of his nickname. He immediately found the danger he was in with his supervision and dodged the knives Bruce had thrown at him. Following that, Bruce darted towards Hawkeye and smashed into him, making Hawkeye unable to resist as he heavily fell to the ground. Keeping his advantage, Bruce hit Hawkeye's stomach over and over again, his face not revealing any expression in the meanwhile, instead keeping his cool. At this moment, Hawkeye was unable to withstand the onslaught, he just felt dizzy after being hit by Bruce a few times. All of this had happened too fast. Moreover, Bruce had so many powerful abilities that Hawkeye couldn't withstand them all. After seeing the current situation, Black Widow's face revealed the total shock she was in. Even she herself couldn't beat Hawkeye in such a short time, but Bruce had done so easily. Especially Bruce's close combat fighting ability, she felt that she couldn't compare with Bruce. But just when the Black Widow was sighing, she saw that Bruce had grabbed Hawkeye's neck and held his head, preparing to hit it toward the ground. No! The Black Widow exclaimed. Hawkeye wouldn't be able to bear such a hit. But Bruce ignored her and continued his action without paying her any heed. Bang! Hawkeye's head hit the ground and he passed out instantly under that huge power. If it wasn't because Bruce had reduced the strength of that final smash, Hawkeye wouldn't only be passed out. "Bruce, what are you doing?" the Black Widow asked in anger. After all, Hawkeye and her used to be the best comrade in arms. Now when she saw that Bruce had hit Hawkeye so heavily, she thought that he was surely trying to kill Hawkeye. Why did Bruce have to use such a cruel way to fight when he was facing one of their own? Bruce stood up and stared at the Black Widow coldly. The face wasn't still not changing. His head needed to be cleared. After saying that, he directly turned back and left without any other superfluous explanations. It had been less than 3 minutes from the start of their battle, and yet such a legendary agent had been so easily beaten by Bruce. What kind of a guy is he? The Black Widow asked herself. After that, she hurriedly called other agents that helped her send Hawkeye back to therapy. After all, Bruce's attack just now had been quite powerful, not something one could sleep off. After that, she called more agents to reinforce the position here, while Bruce on the other hand, was standing still, as the system's voice spoke up in his head. "Beep, the battle has ended, you have obtained 20 points of energy value." The energy value he got this time was the same as when he fought with Loki, and this was in his expectations. After all, the first time he fought with Hawkeye he hadn't done his best, but this time around, he used his newly improved strength to beat him with ease. After the fight with Hulk and Hawkeye, he got a total of 220 points of energy value. Although it wasn't too much, it was still enough for him to do something. Regardless of that, however, Bruce didn't intend to use his energy value immediately, as the New York War was just beginning. Soon, when he would face the Chitauri, even if each one of them only gained 1 point of energy value, as long as he was fast enough, getting a few thousand points of energy value wouldn't be a problem. After the New York War was over, Bruce would be able to download some of the more powerful abilities from the 3 big shots of the Avengers Alliance, and those were the real superpowers. Just as Bruce was thinking, the whole helicarrier had returned to a stable state and stopped falling downwards. It seems that Captain America and Iron Man had teamed up and they had stabilized the helicarrier. Soon afterwards, Bruce came to the place where Loki was held at first. The huge transparent prison had disappeared, leaving only Nick Fury and a dying Coulson. Bruce did not say anything when he saw the situation. He knew that Coulson wouldn't really die, but the chances were slim that Coulson would appear in a future plot. It should be impossible for Bruce to see him again in the future. "Mr. Fury." Bruce stood behind Nick Fury and slowly opened his mouth. Nick Fury turned to Bruce and took a deep breath, before saying, "Coulson is dead." Bruce nodded in response to show that he understood. Coulson's death was undoubtedly a huge blow to Fury, as even now he didn't know whether the Avengers' plan should continue to be carried out or not. "Sir, Loki has run away. This is not the time to be sad." Bruce was very calm at this moment. But it seemed that the Nick Fury of this timeline was somewhat different from the one he knew. Regardless of that, however, he had to push the development of the plot forward, to the opening of the New York War. "What is your suggestion?" Fury stood up with a questioning expression on his face. He stared at Bruce as if he wanted to see through him. "I know that you have found out that I did something about Parker. I have no reason to hide this as well, but even though you know, you also know that I haven't endangered that child, so you haven't investigated me." Bruce was very calm. He could guess that Fury had known about that sort of thing, as after all, this was S.H.I.E.L.D. As long as Fury wanted to investigate, he would certainly find out. "You are very clever. And yes, you are right, I know about that thing. But what do you think about the Avengers?" Nick Fury said. He considered himself a very shrewd person, but he still couldn't see through Bruce. He wasn't even sure about Bruce's intentions yet. But the one thing he was sure about, was that Bruce was not one of Hydra's people, and that he wasn't a threat to S.H.I.E.L.D. So naturally, he wanted to hear Bruce's opinion on the matter, as well as what to do next. "We need a plan, and Mr. Coulson's death will be the most important part of our plan." Bruce smiled as a glimmer of light shone in his eyes. He wanted to control the S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers, and this was only the first step of his plan. Chapter 68, Bruce. Naturally, the type of control Bruce wanted over them was not to literally control them, but to make S.H.I.E.L.D. as well as the Avengers dread him, so that they won't bother him in the future. In fact, his open reveal on the Peter Parker front to Fury had its own purpose, and that was to put the director off alert. And by the way things were going, it seemed that his strategy had been quite effective. Now, Fury had already started putting his guard down around him, albeit he was still on alert, and it would be quite a while before he achieved his goal. But this was just the beginning, as what he wanted required Fury to trust him unconditionally. And now was definitely not the time. After all, his target of manipulation was called the Spy King. He definitely wouldn't be so simple. Phil Coulson's death is the most important part of our plan. Fury looked at Bruce. Although he only had one eye, at this moment, it revealed a brilliant light. It was apparent that Bruce's words made him think deeper into it. S.H.I.E.L.D. can't really control the Avengers, and I believe you can already be sure of this point from the recent events. But while controlling them is off the table, we can use this opportunity to make them formally unite. Bruce's face was still calm. As the person who saw through the whole situation, he surely knew what he was doing now. Fury too was not surprised, as he got Bruce's point and nodded slowly in response. We can use the death of Coulson to make these people unite against their mutual adversary, right? You are really smart. Fury said, getting the most important part of Bruce's plan. It was quite a brilliant idea actually, to make these people, with deep grudges against each other, unite by virtue of Coulson's death. He had previously made sure that Loki's previous actions had completely angered the superheroes, who all had the ability to work independently no matter where they were put. All they lacked now was a proper motivation. Although Thor and Banner had left now, it was only a matter of time before they made their return. I believe Mr. Fury already knows what to do, and I will support you. Bruce's face was still calm, as if what had happened before had nothing to do with him. But how can I trust you? Fury agreed with Bruce's plan, and he planned to execute it. But Bruce's recent performances had shocked everyone. Before this battle, Bruce's fight with Loki and Thor had made Fury think that Bruce was a superhero, but after this battle, his purpose didn't appear to be so simple. Even now, he still had his doubts about Bruce. We don't have any conflicts, and instead of creating one, I will help you. As for how much you trust me, that depends on you, Mr. Fury. After saying that, he turned and left. When dealing with such a man, he didn't need to explain too much. On the contrary, the more he explained, the more flaws were revealed in his explanations. Fury was a very smart person, he would know what the best course of action was. All Bruce needed to do was be patient and wait for his opportunity. Watching Bruce's back as he left, Fury didn't say anything. Instead, he just slowly crouched down and took out some bloody cards from Coulson's pocket. There was one on Captain America, Thor, Iron Man and so on. The reason Coulson had these cards was because he really admired, even worshipped these superheroes. Regardless of the fact that he was an agent, he was above all still a human. Coulson, I won't let you die in such a way, Fury said. After that, he called some agents to deal with the situation here and he went to the helicarrier's main room himself. Currently, there were not many agents left in there, the only ones remaining were the elites of the elites. Hill had a sad look on her face, it seemed that her mood had yet to recover. Captain America and Iron Man were sitting in the middle, showing neither excitement or loss, only desolation because of their failure. This was the first time they had felt defeated because of a failure. The biggest reason for that was because their own people had died, people they knew and were close to. From beginning to end, Loki did nothing but make them fall apart internally, quite unexpected for someone who was the self-proclaimed most powerful superhero on Earth. This made them feel very angry and regretful. The destruction on the scene of the main room made their expressions turn even more desolate. These cards were found in Phil Coulson's coat. At this moment, Fury came over and threw out a couple of cards from his hand. Captain America and Iron Man looked at the bloody cards, and slightly closed their eyes. Whether it be Captain America or Iron Man, they all had a good impression of Coulson, but now he had died in front of them in such a way. Fury saw that they were silent and remembered what Bruce had said. He slowly opened his mouth. At first, my intention was to build an extremely powerful alliance, which would have helped us protect the Earth. But maybe I had been wrong from the beginning. Iron Man and Captain America looked at him, not saying anything and just listening. I wanted to use the Tesseract to make a powerful weapon, but I didn't put all my bets on it. I had a better idea. Stark should know what that idea was. You are all the most outstanding men in the world on your own, but making you guys unite would make you play a way more powerful role. Fury slowly said, and he was indeed a very smart person. In fact, the Captain and Iron Man both already knew about this, but now that he had said it himself, it was a lot more impactful. These concepts are all stereotypical, things should be like this only in the movies. Iron Man said as he stood up. Although he replied in such an unfriendly way, it wasn't something to hold against him, as the death of Coulson had really angered him. This was an important point for keeping them all together. Mr. Stark, you should know how powerful our enemies are, a lot of people need you. At this moment, Bruce appeared, as calm as always. But at this moment, he was wearing combat clothing which made him look extremely brisk. Everyone looked at Bruce with eyes that revealed how strange they felt. He was the only person that no one could see through, and although S.H.I.E.L.D. had previously said that he was one of their own, it was quite apparent that S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't control him at all. I know Mr. Coulson very well, he trusted you completely, and will continue to do so, even in death. Bruce sat down, but no one replied. The whole room went silent once again. Coulson's death had indeed had a great impact on everyone present. Loki has seen and now knows every one of you, which gives him the opportunity to break through us one by one and make us fall into internal conflict once again. This time around, you have all failed. Bruce spoke again, his expression remaining calm. But the words he said made everyone frown, including Captain America. Bruce said that they failed, which made them very unhappy, but this was an indisputable fact, so they couldn't say anything. You are all powerful, well-known superheroes. But now, after facing such a failure, don't tell me you don't want revenge? At this moment, Bruce stood up and looked at everyone present, his tone very solemn. Chapter 69, Shock. Everyone present could see what Bruce was doing, but that didn't prevent it from being useful. Whether it be Captain America or Iron Man, they had all failed, and more than once at that. The reason they were angry, however, was because this failure was different from the rest. And Bruce was right, the only way to remedy this was to exact revenge, there was no other way to make up for their mistakes. Moreover, they could avenge Coulson at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. We don't know what to do. Our communications are intercepted and all signals are gone. It's impossible for us to locate Loki now. Captain America said, pointing out the biggest problem they were facing now. Everyone present went silent once again after hearing that. Previously, it was Loki that voluntarily appeared, but now that he had chosen to escape, it would be difficult to find him anytime soon. And the longer they took, the more passive their position would become. This was especially the case when they would have to deal with even more terrifying enemies if Loki opened a rift using the Tesseract. Mr. Stark, what kind of a person do you think Loki is, and what do you think are his next plans? Bruce spoke up, once again at an appropriate time. Before this he had tried to remind Iron Man, but it seemed that Iron Man had not gotten his point. Regardless, once a person had experienced failure, he would be forced to calm himself down. He is an arrogant and egotistical man, he likes flowers and applause. He wants the whole world to take note of his existence. And now that he has the necessary materials, the only thing he's lacking is a huge energy source to open the rift. Damn it! Iron Man had been talking quite openly while analyzing the questions Bruce had posed, but the more he analyzed, the more he felt that something was wrong. And finally, he realized that he knew where Loki was headed, and that was his Stark building. The reasons behind the Stark building being the most likely choice for Loki was because it fit with Loki's character to do so, and it also fit the conditions for opening a rift. Furthermore, that building was not only Stark property, but it was also the landmark of Stark Industries. How can a man as proud as Iron Man not take action when he came to this conclusion? Captain America and Fury also got the point, as Bruce's meaning had been very obvious. "I'll get the men, Fury, give me a plane," Captain America said, as he stood up and started to make the preparations right then and there. Following that, the others also began moving. Whereas Bruce stood in place, his face still as calm as ever, which was noticed by Fury and Hill soon afterward. These superheroes that they were unable to control for the life of them, had been so easily mobilized by Bruce in just a few words, it was needless to say just how surprised they were. As the representative of S.H.I.E.L.D., I will also participate in this battle. After saying that, Bruce also left to prepare, leaving only Hill and Fury in the room. "Mr. Fury, Bruce." Hill also began to have his doubts about Bruce, because his performance was just too outstanding. "Let him go." Fury didn't say much. The most important thing now was to unite these superheroes. Only in this way could they solve their current predicament. Soon after, Bruce and Captain America came to the treatment room. Inside were Hawkeye and the Black Widow, who seemed to be waiting for them. "I need manpower. Can you come drive the plane?" Captain America solemnly said. After all, Black Widow was strong enough to be eligible to participate in this operation with them, and he did need the manpower. "I can." But instead of her, it was Hawkeye who answered. His eyes had returned to their original color, and they displayed his incomparable wrath. Being controlled by another superhero, and an enemy at that, was shameful to say the least. At this moment, he wanted nothing more than to rip Loki to pieces. Black Widow looked at the captain and nodded, signifying that Hawkeye had indeed recovered his mind. After that, they all set off together, which prompted Hawkeye to ask, "Bruce, Natasha told me that you helped me recover my mind, how did you do that?" While what he asked may have made him come off as ungrateful and suspicious, it was just his curiosity taking over. He was controlled by Loki, so how could Bruce help him recover? It just didn't make sense to him. Captain America and Black Widow also looked at him with curiosity, especially since Bruce was able to resist Loki's mind control before, making them very interested. "This brings up a bad memory for me, Mr. Barton, please forgive me, but I don't want to think about it." Bruce smiled as he said, making the Black Widow also smile, albeit helplessly. She hadn't told Hawkeye how Bruce helped him yet. After all, Bruce's way was way too brutal, and she was worried that Hawkeye wouldn't be able to accept it for a while. With that, Hawkeye decided to stop thinking about it, and he nodded to Bruce with a smile as well. "Well, Captain, you go first. I'll go along with Mr. Stark." After saying that, Bruce turned and left. Captain America and Hawkeye were left staring at each other, both feeling an inexplicable feeling. "He is way stronger and more mysterious than we imagined. Let's do what we have to do, he will be there on time," the Black Widow said, not offering any further explanations. Everything would be revealed in the upcoming war, so it didn't make sense to talk about certain things now. After that, the three of them boarded the plane together. Meanwhile, at this time, Bruce had made his way over to Iron Man's side. "Hello, Mr. Stark, are you ready?" Iron Man glanced at Bruce, holding the Mark armor in his hands. He took a look behind Bruce but was surprised when he didn't see Captain America and the others. "Aren't you going with the others?" "I can't take you." Iron Man felt that this was weird, so he ignored Bruce. He took out the controller in his hands, and suddenly, the Mark armor that was behind him wrapped his entire body inside of it. The process was extremely pleasing, it gave off a strong sense of futurism. Only Iron Man's head was not yet covered. As he looked at Bruce again, "Bruce, I don't have a way to take you, really. You should go with the captain and the rest, even though it will be a bit slower." When he said this, he was extremely proud of himself. With the Mark armor that he had designed himself, he could do a lot of things that were previously impossible, and it was a one-of-a-kind technology as well, with him being the only one capable of making it. "I know, Mr. Stark," Bruce said. Just as he answered, a black suit of armor instantly wrapped around his body. Every part of the black armor looked mysterious, and it had an ancient feeling to it, as well as charm. Bruce, who was wearing the black armor, looked just like a god of death. It was as if every part of the armor was created for war. Iron Man became dumbfounded after seeing this scene, he just couldn't believe it. Just from the exterior he could see that this mysterious black armor was more powerful than his Mark 7 armor that he had made in the Stark building. It even seemed as if this black armor was an upgraded version of the Mark 7 armor. Chapter 70, War. Was this armor designed by Bruce himself with his own armor as a reference? However, the moment that thought emerged in Iron Man's head, it was quickly shot down. The designing concept of this set of armor in front of him was completely different from his own, especially the texture and the colors. But that still didn't explain just how Bruce had managed to get his hands on this kind of armor. Iron Man couldn't bring himself to accept that fact for quite a long while, as such an armor and AI should originate only from him. Now, can we go together? Bruce laughed, attempting to change the subject. Naturally, he knew what was on Iron Man's mind after his reaction earlier, but this matter couldn't be blamed on him. After all, no matter who you asked, no one would accept others owning the thing you were most proud of. After undergoing the system's transformation, even Iron Man couldn't find the slightest similarity between the two armors no matter how hard he looked. The biggest difference between the two was the power system, as while Iron Man relied on the tokamak, Bruce relied on his system. In the previous battle between him and the Hulk, his armor had gotten marginally damaged, but it soon made a complete recovery. The fact that he didn't need to spend any resources on the repairs on his armor had saved him a lot of trouble, and would continue to do so in greater effects in the future. Okay then, let's go together, Iron Man said, as he put on his helmet and directly flew away. Upon seeing Iron Man fly away, Bruce stopped waiting around and after activating his armor, he too took to the skies. This was the first time Bruce had experienced flying at high altitude, at least in this way, and he could enjoy it as much as he wanted because his armor was fast and strong enough, and he didn't need to worry about power consumption at all. On the other hand, Captain America, Hawkeye, and the rest had just stepped onto the plane and immediately saw Bruce and Iron Man's departure. That black armor, isn't it, Bruce? Hawkeye asked, making all their faces reveal a tinge of surprise. Things related to him are always surprising, you just need to get used to it. Let's stop wasting time and go, Black Widow said, already accustomed to Bruce's surprising nature. It was reasonable for her, as even Hulk's punch hadn't actually managed to hurt Bruce at all, so what was mere flight in comparison? Instead of being surprised, she was actually looking forward to what Bruce would reveal next. Meanwhile in the air, a black and red suit of armor burst out with speed exceeding the speed of sound and created a sonic boom. Bruce's armor was the upgraded version of Iron Man's armor, so he was naturally faster than him. Iron Man had still managed to follow closely behind Bruce, however, as he looked at Bruce with a head full of questions. J.A.V.I.S. Scan the structure and materials of his armor. After giving out that order, a lot of data appeared in the screen in front of him. Sorry sir, this set of armor cannot be scanned. The material and structure of the armor are unknown. JRVS's voice came, but the news it brought with it surprised Iron Man. The artificial intelligence he developed was capable of scanning most materials in this world and it was even able to find their weak points. And yet for the black armor in front of him, it was incapable of doing anything. Did he really develop this suit of armor by himself? Iron Man thought to himself, as he was almost sure now that this set of armor had nothing to do with him. Still, he was very curious as to how Bruce had created this set of armor. It was the most advanced armor he had seen to date, even more advanced than his. Had he found someone in this world that was smarter than himself? Just as Iron Man was thinking of all of that, the clouds in the sky slowly began parting and revealed the Stark building that stood under them. On the top floor of the building, an unknown equipment could be seen starting. Relying on his armor, Iron Man had also quickly found Loki's precise location, which was in his office. Mr. Stark, let's enter together, Bruce said, wanting to enter the office alongside Iron Man. As for the previously mentioned unknown equipment, Bruce chose not to break it. After all, if he did break it, where would he find the chance to obtain that much energy value again? As for the war that would begin and the people that would die as a result of that, Bruce didn't really care. Upon thinking about Loki's power, Iron Man immediately agreed. While he wouldn't get instantly controlled, it was best to prevent certain accidents from happening when it was not needed. Soon afterwards, Bruce and Iron Man entered the building. And the moment they did, Loki had discovered their existence and gripped his scepter tightly, a little confused at the situation. Who was in that black armor? But when Iron Man and Bruce took off their helmets and revealed their faces, Loki's face drastically changed. "Ah, it's you." Unknowingly, Loki had developed a bit of fear towards Bruce, as well as a small mental block. This fear was amongst the most common of fears, and that was the fear of the unknown. As he knew everything about everyone else, yet when it came to Bruce, he knew absolutely nothing. But soon he got over it a little, as this time he would use his real strength. "Hello Mr. Stark, Mr. Lite." Loki opened his mouth and greeted the two of them with the typical smirk on his face, making him look very evil. Iron Man didn't respond, he took a glance at Bruce, and then walked towards a certain location. He wanted to go and equip his latest armor, as he didn't want to lose to Loki. Bruce on the other hand had started slowly walking towards Loki. "Hello Loki, I think it's time you surrender, don't you?" Bruce spoke, looking extremely relaxed. But his tone only served to provoke Loki, making him very upset. As was well known, Loki had grown up in Asgard, and as such he felt deep humiliation that he was actually beaten by a mortal. And now said mortal had actually wanted him to surrender of his own volition. How could he agree? "Last time it was because of my negligence. Anyway, as a mere mortal you could never understand a god." Loki shouted with his scepter in hand. He started waving his scepter, making a light of pure energy shoot out towards Bruce. Boom! Bruce chose not to dodge and instead let that energy hit his body. Bruce! Iron Man, who had just changed into his latest armor, had no expected that Bruce would take the blow from Loki voluntarily. A human body from Earth could simply not bear such an attack. Just when Iron Man spoke, Loki rushed towards him, managing to grab and throw him out in a single motion. "I am a god, and the words I speak are the orders of a god, as I am the master of this world. Selvig, why are you still hesitating? Follow me." Loki held his scepter and yelled as if he really was the master of this world. "A mere false god, and yet you dare call yourself the master?" At this moment, Bruce's voice came. Just now, the blow from Loki had no effect on him, as was apparent because of his undamaged armor. Loki's eyes were full of killing intent, and he rushed straight towards Bruce. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, Bruce threw out dozens of flying knives with enough power and speed to make a so-called god tremble. Boom! As Loki dodged too late, he was hit by a couple of the flying knives and he fell into rubble. But Bruce did not stop upon seeing that, as he wouldn't underestimate Loki's body strength for a second time. He knew that in reality, those flying knives he had thrown couldn't do any real damage to him, and instead served the purpose of taking the initiative. "Damned ants, you dare blaspheme against this god, I'll make you pay for your sins." Loki rushed out, as he gathered energy once again and started fighting with Bruce. By this time, above the Stark Industrial Building, Dr. Selvig had made use of the Tesseract to completely open a rift. It seemed that the real battle had begun. This marks the end of Part 9 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills. I can download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.